They called her a disappointment, a dropout, a tech support girl who'd never make it. They didn't ask what she was building. They just assumed, because she didn't follow the rules, she had already failed. So she walked out. 3 suitcases, 1 laptop, 0 support. What happened next? She didn't just survive. She built a company, a legacy, and a life they couldn't ignore, even when they tried. This is the story of Ella Monroe, a woman who stopped waiting for permission and started creating her own version of success. If you've ever felt unseen, underestimated, or unwanted in your own family, this story is for you. I was born in Cedar Point, Washington, where family names carried more weight than kindness, and where success wasn't measured in joy, but in framed diplomas on the wall. My father, Dr. Richard Monroe, was a tenured economics professor at the University of Puget Sound. He walked like he was always headed to a podium and spoke like every conversation was a lecture. My mother, Susan, was the principal of our local high school, strict, orderly, and convinced that every mistake in life could be prevented by following structure and tradition. And then there was Lana, my older sister, the golden child. She won the state science fair in 7th grade, scored a perfect SAT, got into Johns Hopkins Medical School with a full ride and a published research paper under her belt. At every holiday dinner, her name was spoken like a national anthem. Me? I was the girl who fixed the Wi-Fi router, built websites for neighbors, and got excited over HTML tags. At 12, I repaired our neighbor's fax machine in exchange for a slice of pecan pie and $15. At 15, I taught myself JavaScript so I could build a digital booking system for a local hair salon. By 17, I had 3 small businesses paying me monthly to manage their online stores. But in my family, that wasn't achievement. That was a phase. "Stop wasting time on that screen," my mom would say. My dad once muttered, "If you want to be a glorified IT girl, don't expect a cent from us." They never asked what lit me up, only what college I was applying to. So the night it happened, our family dinner, wasn't a surprise. But it still split something in me. We were seated around our long mahogany table. Dad had lined up college brochures like trophies: Stanford, Yale, Dartmouth. Lana was home for a visit, glowing as usual in her hospital scrubs, sharing stories from her neurology rotation. Everyone was so proud. And then they turned to me. "Well, Ella," my father said, already sipping his wine. "Where are you applying?" I looked up, my hands trembling under the table. "I'm not applying," I said softly. "I'm not going to college. I've started my own business. It's already making money. I want to build something real." Silence. Then, the sound of a fork clinking against a plate. My mother's eyes froze mid-blink. My father put his glass down slowly, like he was setting down a bomb. "Not under this roof," he said coldly. "Absolutely not. That's not a path. That's an embarrassment. You're throwing away your future." Lana laughed, an actual laugh, then glanced down at her phone like I wasn't even worth a reaction. I waited for someone, anyone, to ask why. Why I felt so sure. Why this work meant something to me. But no one did. So I stood up, walked upstairs, and started packing. 3 suitcases, a laptop, a backpack full of charging cables, and the last shred of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd stop me at the door. They didn't. Not even a goodbye. No hug. No take care. Just the soft click of the door behind me as I stepped into the night. The air was cold. My hands were shaking. But my mind had never been clearer. They thought I'd come crawling back. But I knew. That moment, standing on our stone porch under a flickering porch light, I wasn't leaving in shame. I was finally walking toward something that was mine. My first apartment smelled like peeling paint and forgotten dreams. It was on the 3rd floor of a rundown brick building in South Seattle. 452 square feet of slanted floors, drafty windows, and a kitchen so narrow I could touch both walls with my arms outstretched. The radiator groaned like an old man every morning, and the hallway lights flickered like they were deciding whether or not to give up entirely. But it was mine. No one controlled the thermostat but me. No one hovered over my shoulder asking about test scores. No one told me I wasn't enough. I furnished the place with a second-hand futon, a foldable desk, and a $12 lamp from Goodwill. My office was the living room. My living room was the kitchen. And my startup? That was a wooden table shoved under the only working outlet. I called it Willow Cart, a simple platform to help local artisans sell their handcrafted goods online. It wasn't flashy, no funding, no team, just me, my laptop, and an idea that refused to let go. Mornings started at 5:30 with bad coffee from a cracked drip machine. Evenings ended past midnight, my eyes burning from blue light, my fingers numb from coding. Some nights I stared at the ceiling for hours, not from insomnia, but from fear. Fear that maybe my parents were right, that I was foolish, that I'd built my entire future on stubborn pride and a glitchy website. I lived on cup noodles, boiled eggs, and black beans from dented cans. When the heat bill came, I turned off every light and wore 2 hoodies to bed. Still, I didn't complain, because even in the dark, even in the silence, I was building something that was mine. 3 weeks in, I had exactly 2 clients. Josie, the soap maker from Westport, who paid me $30 a month to list her lavender bars, and Mr. Halderman, a retired woodworker who carved birdhouses and called me kiddo on every call. They weren't big names, they didn't make headlines, but to me, they were hope. Each order that came in felt like a breath of air after being underwater too long. Then came the crash. It was February, rainy, gray. I was driving down 8th Street to deliver packaging supplies to Josie's porch when someone rear-ended me at a red light. No one was hurt. But my 15-year-old Honda Civic wasn't starting. The mechanic gave me an estimate, $750. My checking account balance? $218.72. I went home that night and sat in the middle of the floor surrounded by boxes of shipping tape, printer paper, and invoices I hadn't dared to open. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I just sat there, frozen, like grief had no words for what I was feeling. That night, while scrolling through a community calendar, I saw it. Local small business meetup, Seattle Central Library, Room B, free. No registration required. I almost didn't go. But something in me whispered, just show up. So I did. I wore my only decent sweater and brought a stack of makeshift business cards printed on recycled paper. My hands were still shaking when I walked through the glass doors. That's where I met her. Margaret Weller. Silver hair tied neatly at the nape of her neck, blazer sharp, eyes sharper. She spoke about scaling small software products like she was telling a bedtime story. Clear, calm, commanding. When the Q&A ended, I waited, until everyone left. Then I walked up, almost chickened out, but handed her my card. I'm Ella, I said. I run a tiny platform for artisans, no degree, no funding, but real clients, real results. She looked at me, long, quiet, then asked, "Do you have customer data?" I nodded, opened my laptop, showed her the charts, the orders, the churn rate, the growth. She smiled slightly and said 6 words that would change everything. You don't need more sellers, you need bigger buyers. I didn't fully understand then, but I would. That night, walking home in the drizzle, with my backpack soaked and my body aching from the crash, I felt lighter. Because for the first time since leaving home, someone didn't laugh. Someone didn't dismiss me. Someone saw possibility. And I knew the story I was writing was only just beginning. For 2 days after that meetup, I couldn't stop thinking about what Margaret said. You don't need more sellers, you need bigger buyers. I scribbled it on a sticky note and stuck it to my monitor. I repeated it to myself in the shower, while brushing my teeth, while reheating leftover noodles for the 3rd night in a row. It haunted me, but in the best possible way. I didn't sleep much that week. I wasn't worried. I was obsessed. I tore apart my code base, rewrote the architecture, changed the entire backend to support bulk inventory, analytics dashboards, multi-location syncing. Then I changed the name. Willow Cart felt too soft, too fragile, like a lemonade stand trying to pitch in a boardroom. So I rebranded. Tracebeam Solutions. Something that sounded like it belonged in a room full of grown-ups in suits. Margaret checked in once a week by email. No hand-holding, just quiet, strategic nudges. She wasn't impressed by hope, she was impressed by proof. Get me 5 clients who sell at volume, she wrote one evening. Then we'll talk scaling. So I got to work. I created a clean, functional demo, designed the landing page myself. Then I did the thing I feared most. I cold emailed 112 businesses in 4 days, 97 didn't reply. 12 said no. 2 said maybe. Just one said, "Can we see a live demo?" The company was Hearth and Pine, a handcrafted furniture chain with 29 locations across 4 states. They were using outdated inventory software from 2006. Their operations manager, Rebecca Tran, wanted to know if I could track stock by location, sync orders, and generate low stock alerts. I said yes, then hung up and realized I had no idea how to build that yet. So I stayed up for 5 nights straight. My mattress became a desk, my desk became a coffee altar. By day 5, I had a functional prototype and mild heart palpitations. The morning of the presentation, I wore a blazer I borrowed from my neighbor Maddie. It didn't quite fit, but it made me stand taller. I walked into Hearth and Pine's downtown Seattle office with my old laptop, shaking hands, and a rehearsed pitch. But once I started showing them the system, how inventory moved across stores in real time, how alerts fired when shipments were delayed, everything slowed down. They didn't ask about my degree. They didn't care where I came from. They only cared that it worked. Rebecca stood up at the end and said, "We need this system deployed in 45 days. Can you deliver?" I glanced at my screen, then looked her straight in the eye. "Yes," I said, "but I'll need a direct line to your tech team." She nodded. "Send the contract." The deal closed at $380,000, with $120,000 up front. I didn't scream. I didn't even smile. I just sat in the back of a taxi afterward, holding my backpack like it was a newborn, watching the city roll past the window. I had done it. Alone. No degree, no funding, no family cheering me on from the sidelines. Just code, coffee, and relentless belief. That night, I didn't go out to celebrate. I bought a frozen pizza, poured a glass of grocery store wine, and sat on the floor with the lights off, eating straight from the box. It wasn't fancy, but it was victory. Tracebeam wasn't just a project anymore. It was real. It had a client, a contract, a future, and I had earned every inch of it. Success didn't arrive with champagne. It came in quiet moments, like when I finally paid off my car repairs, or when I could afford a second monitor without checking my account balance 5 times. After the Hearth and Pine contract, things moved fast. I hired my first part-time intern, Ari, a computer science junior who had more tattoos than socks. We worked out of my living room, sharing a whiteboard I'd bolted to the fridge. He brought energy, I brought strategy. Together, we turned Tracebeam into more than just a working prototype. By fall, we had 3 more clients, and for the first time I could exhale, just a little. But something else had started to creep in, something I hadn't expected. Guilt. See, back in Cedar Point, things weren't going so well. I hadn't spoken to my parents in nearly 2 years. The last message from my mom had been a 1-line email. "It's never too late to return to school." But then, one afternoon, while sorting through spam folders, I noticed an old shared inbox I'd used back in high school. Buried inside was a bank statement, accidentally sent by my mother to the wrong address. And there it was. Mortgage past due by 19 days. Medication bill, $1,762. Unpaid. I stared at the screen for a long time. No one had called me. No one asked for help. Maybe they still thought I was scraping by, too stubborn to admit they were right. Maybe they still thought I was a tech support girl with delusions. But I couldn't watch them drown, even if they'd once thrown me overboard. So I picked up the phone, not to call them, to call my attorney. His name was Graham Keller, and he'd helped me incorporate Tracebeam. "I need to set up a trust," I said. "Anonymous, no connection to me." Within a week, we had established Sage Hollow Grant Fund, a made-up nonprofit initiative supporting educators in economic hardship. The fund began paying my parents' mortgage, on time, every month. They received a letter saying a philanthropic foundation had chosen them due to their long-standing contributions to public education. They bought it, no questions asked. Around the same time, Graham helped me create North Mill Consultants, a shell company based out of Boise. Through it, I hired my father as a curriculum advisor for a fake civic education project. The contract paid him $2,000 a month. He told friends he'd been appointed as a statewide policy consultant. My mother? She assumed some silent donor was helping them through a rough patch. I didn't correct her. Then came Lana. I found out, through a distant cousin's Facebook post, that she had given birth to twin boys. She was struggling to pay for the bilingual daycare she had once bragged about. So I created 2 scholarships under a different fund, the Bright Futures Early Development Grant. Each child received $9,000 for annual tuition. Lana never questioned it. She just posted, "God always provides." I read it, sipping lukewarm tea in my shared office space, and gave a dry laugh. Over the next 3 years, I spent more than $110,000 quietly supporting the family that once couldn't even say my name without flinching. They didn't know. They didn't need to. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because part of me still wanted to believe I could make peace by being useful, by fixing what was broken, even if I wasn't the one who broke it. But deep down, I knew this wasn't healing. It was a band-aid on a bullet wound. I was building their stability with the same hands they once pushed away. And every month, as I clicked approve on another payment, a small part of me whispered, "They don't deserve this." But I silenced it. Because the other part, the part that still remembered the porch light, the 3 suitcases, the silence, that part wasn't ready to let go yet. Not yet. Thanksgiving that year fell on a cold, gray Thursday, the kind that made the clouds feel closer to the ground, like they were listening. I hadn't been back home in 4 years. The last time I stood on my parents' porch, I was 19, holding a backpack and 3 suitcases, trying not to cry. This time, I carried a bottle of Napa Valley Red, a neatly bound folder, and a USB drive containing the keynote presentation I had delivered at the Seattle Tech Summit 2 months earlier. I wasn't going to prove anything. I was going to finish something. My mother answered the door in her usual holiday apron, the scent of roasted turkey and forced politeness wafting from behind her. She didn't hug me, just nodded, briskly. "Dinner's at 6. My father was in the den, pretending to read the business section. He gave me a glance that said, "You're still not what I wanted." Lana arrived 10 minutes later, flawless as ever, her medical badge clipped to her designer handbag. Her husband, Greg, unbuckled their twin boys from their booster seats and muttered, "Let's not let the kids near Ella's laptop again. We don't want them coding at 3. I smiled, not because it was funny, because I had outgrown the need to defend myself in rooms that never listened. Dinner started on the dot, as always. My mother raised a toast to family unity. My father followed with a well-rehearsed speech about Lana's latest publication in a neuroscience journal and how we're lucky to have such brilliance at this table. Then came the silence that always followed, the unspoken reminder that I was not worth mentioning. I waited for the turkey to be carved, for the first few bites to be swallowed. Then I stood up. "I'd like to share something," I said, placing the folder on the table. My mother frowned as if I'd just spilled gravy on her linen. Lana leaned back, arms crossed. "Is this about another coding hobby?" I opened the folder. The first page was the cover of TechRise Weekly, a full-page photo of me, standing confidently in front of Tracebeam's downtown office, with the headline, "Ella Monroe, founder of Tracebeam, the woman quietly transforming small business supply chains." My father picked it up and flipped through it like it might fall apart in his hands. "Where did you get this?" I looked him in the eye. "From my own life. I've been running Tracebeam for almost 5 years. We have clients in 8 states, over 140 employees, and just signed a contract with a national retailer." I flipped to the next page. It showed bank statements from Sage Hollow Grant Fund to their mortgage company, prescription coverage statements for Mom, funded by a private healthcare trust I created, scholarship letters for Jacob and Ryan, each stamped with the Bright Futures logo I designed in a coffee shop at midnight. "And the truth is," I said gently, "I've been the one supporting this family." My father stood up, shaking. "You expect us to believe this fairy tale? A college dropout running a multi-million-dollar business?" He slammed the folder shut. "You're a fraud." "No," I said, still calm. "You just never looked long enough to see me," Lana scoffed. "I work 14-hour shifts saving lives, and you think writing code from your couch makes you a hero?" "I'm not a hero," I said, "but I've eaten instant noodles cold because I couldn't afford hot water. I've built this company line by line alone." "I never asked for applause," I added, voice steady. "But I won't be ignored." Then came the part I hadn't rehearsed. I looked at my mother. "And Mom, since we're being honest, the monthly support ends today." Her face blanched. "What about next month's mortgage?" I shrugged gently. "People who think I'm a disgrace don't get to live on my dime." No yelling, no tears. just silence so heavy it pressed into the walls. I picked up the folder, tucked it into my bag, and stepped away from the table. No one followed me to the door. No one called my name. But outside, the rain had started falling, soft and light. And for the first time in years, every drop on my shoulders felt like freedom. I didn't cry until I got to the car, not because they didn't accept me, but because I finally stopped needing them to. The morning after Thanksgiving, I booked a one-way ticket to Florida. No calls, no goodbyes, just a quiet flight at 6:15 a.m. from SeaTac. I sat by the window with headphones in, watching the clouds dissolve like every version of myself I'd ever been expected to become. I didn't leave to get away. I left to finally arrive somewhere as me. 3 years earlier, I'd bought a small property outside Clearwater. A vacation home. 3 bedrooms, red tile roof, a backyard full of grapefruit trees and fading lawn chairs. Back then, I'd only visited once a year, when I needed to breathe without explaining why I was exhausted. But this time, I wasn't escaping. I was building. The first week, I gutted everything. All the old furniture, the faux antique decor, the hollow picture frames, gone. I hired a local designer named Elena, who specialized in minimalist coastal interiors. Together, we made it clean, open, sunlit, a space that didn't apologize for being simple. While Elena repainted the walls, I made a different kind of renovation, one far less visible. I sat down with my attorney and issued a series of official terminations. The Sage Hollow Grant Fund would no longer send mortgage payments. North Mill Consultants dissolved its contract with my father. The daycare scholarships were marked as non-renewable, no explanations, no warnings, just closure. Because I no longer owed anyone the burden of pretending. And Tracebeam? It didn't falter. We opened our new headquarters in Clearwater, 9th floor, full ocean view, dark walnut floors gleaming under natural light. I flew in Ari, now our product lead, along with 2 other core team members from Seattle. We brought the heart of the company with us. My first day walking through those glass doors, I didn't feel like a girl faking confidence in a borrowed blazer. I felt like the woman who earned it. We signed 3 new Florida-based clients within our first quarter. An investment fund from Boston sent over a revised valuation, $59.7 million. And for the first time, I said it out loud in meetings. I'm the CEO. I founded this. Not in a whisper, in full voice. And with that voice, I stopped hiding. No more long sleeves to cover my smartwatch. No more old jeans to stay humble. No more dodging questions about where I went to school. If someone asked, I said, I built a company, not from a dorm room, from a 1-bedroom apartment with bad heat and too much hope. People respected that. Some even admired it. One of them was Caleb Meyer. We met at a Women in Tech mixer. He wasn't there to pitch or impress, just listen. He worked with nonprofits, helping them go digital. His handshake was warm. His voice didn't rise to fill silence. It softened into it. We talked about the future of small-town entrepreneurs. Then we talked about steamed grouper and Thai basil. 3 dinners later, we were walking barefoot along the beach, sharing a pair of earbuds and a playlist from our high school years. He never once asked for my revenue, never once mentioned my past. You built all of this, he said, one night on my porch, and managed to keep it hidden from the world. I smiled. Maybe because I used to think that if they knew, they'd try to own it. Or worse, change me. And now? He asked. Now, I said, raising my glass. If someone can't accept who I really am, they don't get to be part of my story. We clinked our drinks, pineapple mint cocktails on a humid night. No pressure, no promises, just a moment, held honestly. That was the thing I never understood when I was younger. Freedom doesn't come from finally being loved. It comes from no longer needing to beg for it. There's a moment when success stops being about proving people wrong and starts being about lifting up the people who never had a chance to begin with. For me, that moment came on a quiet Saturday morning as I watered the lavender by my back porch. The Florida sun was soft that day, filtered through clouds like silk. I had just signed off on Tracebeam's latest product roadmap when it hit me. I had made it. Not just financially, but on my own terms, without apologies, without a single framed diploma. And yet, I kept thinking about the girl I used to be. sitting on the floor of a 450 square foot apartment. No heat, no degree, no one rooting for her, just code, caffeine, and grit. She didn't need a lecture. She needed someone to believe in her, before the world ever did. So I decided to build what I never had. I called it the Forge Forward Grant. A fund for young entrepreneurs without college degrees but with vision, real vision. We didn't ask for GPAs. We asked what they wanted to build and why. I didn't want gatekeepers. I wanted doers. The first launch event was held in a small auditorium at Clearwater Tech Hub. No red carpet, just folding chairs, local pastries, and enough coffee to fuel a hackathon. I stepped onto the stage in jeans and sneakers. No speech, no teleprompter, just me. Some of the best builders I know never finished college, I said. Some never even started. But they understand people. They solve problems. They don't wait for permission. I paused, looking out into the crowd. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not less. We received over 500 applications in 6 weeks. The first recipient was Ella Monroe, no relation, 22 years old, from El Paso, Texas. She built a prototype for a scheduling tool that could automate walk-in clinic waitlists in underserved neighborhoods. Her cover letter simply said, "I've been rejected for not having a degree, but I still know how to fix this." We gave her $20,000 and a year of mentorship. When I told her the news over a video call, she cried. "I didn't think anyone would pick me when the education section said high school." I smiled and said, "Maybe you just hadn't met the right reviewer yet." Forge Forward wasn't just a grant, it was a declaration that we would not wait for institutions to define value, that we would build the table and then make room at it. One night, after approving a new round of applications, my phone buzzed. Natalie. I stared at the name for a full 30 seconds. Part of me wanted to ignore it, the part still carrying Thanksgiving and every silence before it. But I answered. Her voice was quiet, different. "It's me," she said. "I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm sorry." I didn't know what to say. I poured a glass of water, held it for a long time. "I didn't see you," she said, breaking the silence. "Not really, not until now." It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't some big cinematic breakthrough, but it was real. After that, we exchanged small messages, birthday wishes for her kids, updates about her new job, still distant, but no longer strangers. Then, one Sunday, I got a letter. Not an email. A real letter, handwritten, slanted slightly left, from my father. It started simply, "Ella, I don't know where to begin, so I'll be direct. I was wrong. Wrong to believe there was only one path. Wrong to let my pride blind me. Wrong not to see the woman you've become. You don't have to forgive me, but I need you to know. I'm proud." I read it 3 times, then a 4th. No tears fell. But something in my chest loosened, like a rope I didn't know I'd been pulling for years had finally given way. I didn't call back right away, but I mailed a postcard from Sarasota. "Thank you for writing. I'm building the life I always dreamed of. If you want to be part of it, the only condition is respect." I didn't go back to being a daughter in the way they once defined it. I didn't need to, because now, I wasn't just at the table, I had built it. And every chair I added, every grant I gave, every young builder I lifted, was my way of saying, there's room here, for all of us. The call came on a Sunday morning. I was on my porch, barefoot, holding a cup of tea, watching the wind ruffle the leaves in the grapefruit trees. The phone buzzed softly. Incoming call. Landline. Cedar Point, WA. I almost let it ring. Part of me had become expert at silence. But something in my gut said, "This time, answer." I pressed accept. "Ella," my mom's voice came through, tentative, unfamiliar in its softness. "It's Linda." There was a pause, then, "Your father and we're planning a trip next month, to Florida. We were wondering if we could see you." The words came out carefully, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to ask. I looked out at the sky. It was blue, cloudless, honest. "In what capacity?" I asked. Do you want to see me? As the daughter you once rejected? Or as the woman you now can't ignore? Silence. Then gently, barely above a whisper, as our daughter, if you'll allow it. I didn't say yes, not right away. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel triumph. I felt clarity. I didn't need an apology ceremony. I didn't need validation. What I needed was to ask myself a simple question. Did I still need anything from this meeting? 3 weeks later, we met at a small coffee shop by the shore in Clearwater. I chose it deliberately. Open, bright, no shadows. I got there early, ordered a cold brew, picked the table closest to the sea. At exactly 9 a.m., they arrived. My father walked slower than I remembered, his once black hair now a soft silver. My mother wore a floral dress, no makeup, just tired, aging grace. We sat, no one rushed, no one postured. For a moment, we just breathed in the same space. My father broke the silence first. I read your interview in Founders Weekly. What you've built, it's extraordinary. I nodded. Thank you. My mother placed her hand on the table, not quite touching mine. It took us too long to understand that you didn't need to be anyone's copy. I looked at her gently. You don't need to say that, if it isn't true. I didn't come here for another speech. She lowered her eyes. For the first time in my life, my mother, the woman who once defined me by GPAs and SAT scores, had nothing left to control. My father swallowed hard, then said, You once asked if I saw you as the pride of this family. Back then, I didn't have an answer. But now, I do. You're proof that I was wrong. It was the most honest sentence he had ever said to me. But I didn't rush into forgiveness. I didn't dissolve in tears. I simply answered, Dad, Mom, I don't live for approval anymore. I didn't build this life to win your love. I built it because it was mine to build. And now, I live in a version of myself that doesn't need to be small to be accepted. My mom nodded, not defensively, not with pride, just acceptance. We talked for 20 more minutes, about the new park near the marina, Lana's kids, a bakery they liked. Then, as we stood to leave, my mother stepped forward and gently hugged me. Not tightly, not performatively, just enough to let me feel she wasn't trying to mold me into anything. And for once, I let her. That evening, I didn't look back when they drove away. I didn't cry. I didn't ache. I walked down the beach barefoot, called Caleb, and simply said, I did it. He paused. Did what? I sat with them. No anger, no fear, just me. His voice was warm. Then you've already won, Ella. That night, like every Sunday, I hosted dinner in my backyard. There were string lights overhead, homemade bread, shared wine, Caleb, Ari, Alicia, and 3 new Forge Forward grantees. We didn't talk about balance sheets or brand deals. We talked about truth, about how far silence can carry strength, about the power of choosing your own name when the world tries to write it for you. I didn't need a family to take me back. I had built one from the ground up, out of people who chose me not for who I used to be, but for who I became. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't moving forward to prove anything. I was moving forward because I was already whole. Ella didn't forgive because they deserved it. She forgave because she refused to carry the weight of their silence anymore. She didn't come back to be accepted. She created a life where acceptance was never required. And in doing so, she became the kind of person she once wished would walk into that 450-square-foot apartment and say, I see you, keep going. If you're walking your own path and the people around you don't understand it, keep going anyway. You don't need to be born into a perfect family to build a full life. You just need the courage to write your own ending. If Ella's story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sweet Revenge Happy Ending. Because somewhere out there, someone's waiting to know that they're not alone.